My friends, it's Ranger Russ from the Meigs Nature Center. Had to change the program again today. I thought that there would be a break in the weather, and there wasn't any break. It just, I think, stopped raining now. So instead of doing an outside program today, I'm going to be doing another story. Before we get into the story, though, let's remind everyone the Meigs Nature Center is currently closed. I have not heard a plan for opening when that's going to happen. And there are lots of good reasons why we are not quite ready to open yet. But as soon as we are able to open with all of the safety protocols in place, we will definitely open. We will definitely let you know. It will be everywhere. I'll try and reach out to every possible outlet to let people know that we are open again. Now, the parks are open. You can visit them even on a rainy day like today. I see cars going by every now and then. People are out bird watching. There are still birds out and other wildlife that you can visit even when it's a rainy day. So make sure you get out and visit your parks. I want to thank everybody for putting up where they're from. I see Michigan, Uncasville. So Westbrook, keep putting that up. That's always good to see. And if you're in Michigan, there are plenty of state parks and national parks in Michigan that you can visit. So please continue to visit your state parks. And if it's possible, see if there's something you can do to help out your local park or national park system. It's a tough time for them not having the regular people that they get. So it's a good idea to reach out and see what you can do to help them. And that's actually what this story is about, is helping others, sort of. It's a little play on that, but we'll be getting into that in just a second. I want to remind everybody, you can see these programs on our YouTube channel, the recorded programs. You can see the live programs Tuesday through Friday at 11 o'clock. And you can also see all of our programs, see lots of additional information on our website. If you go to the Virtual Learning Center, we have vocabulary lists, we have word searches, word scrambles, we've got puzzles and games, and just other things that will go along with the programs that you are seeing live. So looks like we have a few people tuning in right now to see our live program. Okay, so today's story. Now, this story, I used to tell this story around a campfire. This is probably 20 years ago. It was probably the last time I told this story around a campfire. But it's still a very good story. I love this story. It's a short story, but it's a lot of fun. So let's start. This story is about a young boy. He lived with his parents in a very small house, but it was neat and clean, and he really enjoyed the space that they had. Now, the little boy really enjoyed spending time with his grandfather. He would visit his grandfather as often as possible. As the years went on, his grandfather wasn't able to live on his own any longer. So they moved him into the house. The little boy was so excited. He would get to see his grandfather every day. The summers, he would spend the afternoon with his grandfather. In the winter, the boy would walk every day to school with his grandfather, and his grandfather would be waiting to walk him home every day. They spent lots of time together and were very good friends. Well, the house was very crowded. And as time went on, the little boy's mother grew impatient with how crowded the house was. And she thought it might be a good idea if we move Grandpa out behind the house into the woodshed. We can clean out all the wood, sweep it out, and they put in a little bed. Well, the mom and the dad talked about this for quite some time. The little boy didn't really know why they needed to move Grandpa into the woodshed, but he listened to the conversation, and finally they decided that yes, this is what they would do. So they cleaned out the woodshed, they set up the little bed, and they moved Grandpa to live in the woodshed. The little boy still spent as much time with his grandfather as ever. All summer he would spend in the woodshed hanging out with his grandfather. Well, as the time went on, it got a little bit cooler, and Grandpa started to get cold at night. So he asked the little boy if he could find him an extra blanket somewhere. "Of course," said the little boy, and he set off to find a blanket. He searched the house, and finally he found a blanket in a cupboard. But as he was heading out the door with that blanket, his mother stopped him. "Where are you going with one of my blankets?" she said. "Well, it's getting cooler at night, and Grandpa needs an extra blanket, so I thought I would give him this one," the little boy answered. "Oh no," said the mother. "That's one of my nice clean blankets. I'm not going to have that out in the woodshed. You find Grandpa an older blanket, and he can use that one." So the little boy continued to search, but he couldn't find an old blanket anywhere. He did find a carpet, and he thought, carpet is kind of like a blanket. I could use this and give it to Grandpa instead of a blanket. But before he did that, he decided that he would cut the carpet in half. He tried and tried, but he didn't have a knife that was sharp enough to cut the carpet. While he was trying to cut the carpet in half, his father came along. He said, "What are you doing with that carpet?" "Oh," the little boy said, "I'm trying to cut it in half." "Okay," said the father, "but why are you trying to cut it in half?" He said, "Well, the nights are getting cooler, and Grandpa would like an extra blanket. But Mom wouldn't let me take one of the clean blankets out of the house because the woodshed was so dirty." "Okay," said the father, "but why not give Grandpa the whole carpet as a blanket? Why would you cut it in half?" "Oh," said the little boy, "that's easy. I was going to cut the carpet in half so I could give half to Grandpa right now to use as a blanket, and save the other half for you, so that when you get old and have to move into the woodshed, you would have a blanket too." The little boy was very excited to tell his father about this. But this made his father stop. He realized how poorly he was treating his own father. He would not want to move into the woodshed himself, but yet he had his father living in the woodshed. So they went right away and moved Grandpa back into the house with everyone else. And they all lived happily ever after, even if it was a little bit crowded. Okay, so I really love this story, and it's a great example of, I think, doing unto others as you would have them do unto you. You would not want to live in the woodshed yourself, and maybe you don't realize when you're treating someone else poorly until you put yourself in their shoes. Now, I think of this a lot when I think of the natural world, because I see people throwing litter out of their cars or dropping it on the side of a trail as they're hiking. And I wonder, would they like that if someone dropped a piece of trash in their front yard or even in their house? We're kind of doing the same thing. Every time we litter or leave something, we just don't put it in the trash. Sometimes people don't consider it littering because they left it on a picnic table or something like that. I still think it's littering because you're not throwing it away. So These are good examples, good things to think about. When you're out in the natural world, when you're out in your everyday lives, please try and put yourselves into the footprints of other people or of the animals that live around you. I'm going to do an entire program on what pollution does to wildlife. And just tossing a small piece of trash, let's just say a yogurt container, throwing that out the side of your car as you're driving to work if you have your yogurt on the way to work. I don't suggest eating in a car, but that happens sometimes. That one little yogurt container could cause a world of issues for wildlife. First of all, an animal might get its head stuck in it. Now, they've changed the shape of most of the yogurt containers, so it doesn't happen as often. But still, that yogurt container is going to attract wildlife. It smells like food, right? So that wildlife is going to come by the road, and then they're susceptible to being hit by cars. So just something to think about all the time. Okay, let's see if we have any questions. Oh, someone says, please also do a segment on lawn pesticides. I think I'll include that with the pollution, but I'll just mention right now. Pesticides, herbicides, all of the chemicals that we use, cleaning solutions, cleaning the side of your house, washing your car. You need to think about all of those chemicals because they have to go somewhere. Now, some of them don't last very long in the environment and some of them last forever. So that's something else to consider. But all of the chemicals that we are putting into our environment, even though it's your yard, they do have to end up somewhere. They're not going to stay in your yard. Either they're going to get washed off as runoff, or they will be able to penetrate the ground and perhaps get into the water table that's around your home, which means eventually those chemicals that you're using could reach your own well and end up back in your system. Now, when you're washing your car or using these pesticides, you would not want to drink those products. So why would you want them in your groundwater? So, very good point. I'll talk more about that when we do a pollution segment coming up. Pollution and litter, we'll probably combine those just so we have enough of a program there. All right, do we have any others? Someone says the do unto others is Bible wisdom. Fairfield, I'm not seeing any other questions. So again, this is a short program. You can see all of our programs if you go to meigspointnaturecenter.org, visit the Virtual Learning Center. The programs are recorded there. Also, I'm asking people to subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can see our programs on YouTube, but if we get 1,000 subscribers to YouTube, then I'll be able to do YouTube Live as well. And even if I told this story right after, so if I did this Facebook Live program, if we were able to do YouTube Live right after, you would hear a different story. Because every time I tell the stories, they're going to be a little bit different. I was taught by a Native American storyteller that stories should be that way. So I don't try and get them exact every time. Okay. Dog. 2 Great Danes dogs were sprayed by a neighbor and caused problems. Oh, that's not good. I didn't even think of your own pets being exposed to those chemicals, but that's true too. It's not just wildlife that are exposed to the chemicals. Secondary poisoning is also another big one. Secondary poisoning is if you poison your rats or mice or things, and then they go out and get eaten by something else, they can also be affected by the poisons. Now, poison companies are going to tell you that that doesn't happen and that it can't happen, but I've seen it happen, so I'm not sure how a great horned owl could get rat poisoning, but I volunteer with a place called Hope, and we have tested some of the birds that come in, and some of them test positive for rat pesticides. So it definitely can happen. Okay. I hope you all enjoyed this program today. Again, it's one of my favorite stories. I just love that story. It reminds everybody to make sure you look at things through other people's eyes. It's sort of like don't be selfish. Make sure you consider everyone around you when you're in your everyday lives. And these programs will continue to come to you every Tuesday through Friday at 11 o'clock. Special programs will be coming. And if the weather is good, tomorrow evening, I plan on doing a late night insect program. So let's hope for good weather. I was going to do it tonight, but it looks like it's going to be raining all evening. So hopefully tomorrow evening, I'm going to wait till it's pretty dark. So we're probably looking at about 8:30 or so. Insects at night. Going to be fun. Stay tuned. Until next time, this is Ranger Russ from the Meigs Point Nature Center signing off.